Hello, welcome, and good evening to an unplanned episode. What have we got here? So this is a vintage 80s video game, handheld video game, a Tomy Monster Burger LSI game. Monster Burger is the game. There were like 3 or 4 different games using this same platform. This was a Christmas present to Mrs. Root 42, and to cut a long story short, you always should check polarity when putting in your batteries. What did happen? The game started up, but a tiny little diode here seemed to have taken the bulk of the load of the wrong polarity, heated up, desoldered itself, and everything went dark. And I think from the solder we got magic smoke. Hopefully only from that. No way to test that right now. What I will try to do here is clean the board up a bit, because there's, at least this part here, there's a lot of old flux. I don't know if you can see it, but the board is real messy. So these were cheap toys in the 80s, and you can see that on the IC here, I think, on the board. This should probably be all flux residue, I guess. We'll clean this off with isopropyl alcohol, which you can buy for cheap in the chemistry. I think you call it in English, right? Where you get all your other drugs, basically. And it's really cheap, and just use a soft toothbrush to scrub that stuff away, the residue. I will insert some detail pictures, but right here are the 2 pins where that thing desoldered itself. So also be careful when working on this, because there's a CFL tube in here, which works with high voltage as usual. The whole assembly is pretty interesting. This is the LCD screen, which will make contact with the pins, or the pads here, the gold pads, which are below these rubber thingies that keep the whole screen in place and make sure that the glass doesn't touch anything else, I think. There's one microcontroller here doing the whole game stuff. We will also use the isopropyl to clean off the contacts here for the keypads. The keypads are just laid in. They are rubber domes with graphite or carbon pads. We'll gently scrub those carbon pads very lightly to remove any oxidization or stuff, to make the buttons work better. And yeah, after we clean that up, have it dry very good, so you don't burn off any alcohol using your soldering iron. We'll solder back the diode, because I think it's still fine. Probably took a bit of heat damage. I won't replace it for a long time. I will order a replacement, but I don't have any fitting diode now, but I measured it and it seems to be fine. Forward voltage looks good. Reverse is not shorted, so that's a good thing. And then we will just simply try to power this on. Hopefully it will work again. So first the scrubbing, then the soldering, then powering it up. Okay, so board is cleaned up. I used some cotton swabs, and yeah, that one here already got a little bit dirty. And these are very useful for cleaning, like these pads for the buttons. So this part and this part is now clean. It was definitely flux residue. You can see that my fingers here are stained with a white residue. I'm not gonna clean this up here. if this works, this whole thing in the end, we might give it a whole makeover, but don't fix what isn't broken. So maybe I'll also leave it at that. I probably want to replace the diode anyway, because that might be wonky now, or have at least a limited lifespan compared to originally. Soldering it back in should be easy enough. I probably need to clean those two pads with some solder wick, but other than that it should be a straightforward thing. So let's fire up the iron and get going. Okay, the solder job is done. I retouched the inductor right next to the diode as well, because it looked like the heat traveled there as well, and the solder joints looked very well melted and not really with contact. So the diode is back in, that thing is touched up. I'm hoping that will fix it. You never know if there's something else burned. The capacitors do look good. I don't see any bulging or anything, so that should be fine. The transformer here from the outside looks fine. I have no clue what's going in there, so that could have melted as well, I don't know. The CFL probably didn't take any damage, I guess, and since it was working, I think it must have something to do here with the with these two components. The diode being used horribly in a horribly wrong way. Not sure about the voltage on the CFL. The internet is very thin on information on these things, so I've read anything from 35 to 120 volts for these kinds of backlights. Could be even higher, I'm not sure. There's a rating here, 220k, whatever that is, K something, should be ohms, I don't know. But this doesn't look like a resistor. Maybe it's a thermistor, I don't know. And 1 kilovolt. But that could be only a safety margin, the 1 kilovolt. I have no clue. So high frequency, high voltage stuff is totally out of my league. I hope I don't get zapped by this. I mean, it only has 4 AA batteries. So the amount of current that you can get from this is probably not lethal, but it will hurt, definitely hurt if you touch this while it's live. So I will put it back together and then put some batteries in, and let's pray for it to work. Yeah, otherwise we have probably a nice smoking and exploding thingy, and I will run out of the room with this and throw it out on the grass or something. Yeah, let's see. Okay, putting in the batteries. Not sure about how I feel about this. Wish me luck, guys and gals. Sound is on, power is on. And no display. Better turn it off. Yeah. That didn't do much. So something more broke. The beep is okay. That's what it's supposed to do. So no backlight. Could be the transformer. Let's hold it here under the light. Yeah, okay, the electronics is working. No backlight. So that's a bummer. Question time. What do you bet? So the diode popped out due to overheating. could be bad, but the multimeter set looks fine. Could still be bad, right? The inductor could be wasted because it was so close to it. Could have taken some heat damage. I can probably get a replacement for that as well, because all the components were labeled on the board. Then the transformer is obviously a problem. If that's the case, we could just rip out all the high frequency, high voltage stuff and put some LED light behind that. But that will be a major mod. I already googled something like that because I know that for the Sega Game Gear and similar old handheld consoles there's like ready-made kits to do those kinds of mods, because they all used this kind of CFL stuff back in the 80s, early 90s, because white LEDs weren't invented back then, right? You had green and red LEDs and maybe orange or yellow, but even blue LEDs were not commercially available, and white LEDs were unheard of. That was like solved only quite a bit time later, and I think even a Nobel Prize was awarded for that. So yeah, I think definitely still something broken in the high voltage compartment here. Maybe the transformer even. Someone with more knowledge than me should be able to figure that one out. I definitely can't do any more on this, I think. I'm thinking if someone else could help here, but not quite sure right now. Anyway, thanks for watching with this, bit of a failure project. Yeah, it is actually a bit sad because these are getting rarer by the day, and people like we damage them and kill them off in stupid accidents. Well, always double check your polarity of the batteries, because they usually always go in opposite ways, at least in the old things. I know only one device, the Apple Magic Mouse number 1, that used to put them in the same direction, which is weird. And maybe they thought, oh, how idiots can't make mistakes, but you know what? Nothing is foolproof, as you saw here. So double check your batteries, and most important, share, like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this, I don't want to let this running for longer than necessary, because I think it might be damaged irreversibly, and maybe in a future project I will cut out the high frequency part and just put in LED backlights, and hopefully then it will work, because probably the LCD screen is still working, don't know why it shouldn't, and simply the backlight is gone, and so you can't see anything here. First easy fix here would be to remove the CFL and just take a look, powering this thing up with no backside and just ambient light, and then you should see the game. Yeah, that would probably be something. Again, thanks for watching, have a nice evening, share, like and subscribe, and see you next time.